Jimmy Kimmel was back last night after being pulled from the air by Disney under pressure from the Trump administration. At least he was back on most ABC broadcasts around the country. Nexstar and Sinclair did decide to continue to preempt his program, and we'll get to that in a minute. Let's take a listen to a little bit of what he had to say about his suspension.
You supported our show, cared enough to do something about it, to make your voices heard so that mine could be heard. I will never forget it. And maybe most of all, I want to thank the people who don't support my show and what I believe, but support my right to share those beliefs anyway. I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight. And the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind. But I do want to make something clear because it's important to me as a human. And that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do. Nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make, but I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both. And for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this.
So you hear his voice quavering with emotion there, where he's talking about, he never intended to make light of the killing of Charlie Kirk. I think a lot. I don't want to speak for the right now. I'll let you say what you made of it, Emily. I think there was skepticism about the sincerity of this sort of pseudo apology, but I'm sure this was all a very upsetting and traumatic event for Jimmy Kimmel. And I think we've seen the way that even people who don't like Charlie Kirk, really disagree with Charlie Kirk, but who are in the public eye were somewhat traumatized by his, violent murder, effectively live streamed murder, because Kimmel talks about how he faces threats as well. So you can't help but think about your own mortality and, the reality of the dangerous situation that you yourself may be in as well.
It was interesting that Kimmel was emotional and not completely doing a sort of smug victory lap, which he's wont to do. I think he probably handled it as best he could, walking the line between keeping the sort of left happy, keeping middle America happy, and trying to throw a bone to the right without looking like, from his perspective, he folded entirely to the administration, because obviously that's not in any way what he wants to do. I think Kimmel is such a frustrating case. I mean, he did not apologize for, this is where, for example, Turning Point USA, Andrew Colvett came out and said, not good enough. Didn't apologize for fundamentally saying something that was incorrect. And there are polls that show a lot of people think, for example, Tyler Robinson was a groyper, was a far right type of guy. And so I fully understand why many of my friends on the right are furious about somebody who has a public good like the airwaves, making a quip that implies this was a Trump supporter who killed Charlie Kirk. But Kimmel is he's frustrating. He's become like this performative and sort of self-satisfied type of anti-Trump comedian in a way that's like hurt his comedy and like softened his edges and like gets cringy sometimes. He also was like happy about Roseanne firing, whatever else. But that's where we should bring in Nexstar, Sinclair, and then Joe Rogan. So we can put B2 on the screen. Nexstar and Sinclair did not air this, as Krystal mentioned earlier. So that's a good chunk of affiliates around the country who have more, probably, my assumption would be, in many cases, more pro-Kirk audiences in some of these local networks or these communities who have some of their own pressures to deal with. And obviously Nexstar, it is would be remiss if we didn't mention that they have a merger they're trying to get through with Tegna that's going to come in front of Brendan Carr's FCC in the not too distant future. So let's roll how Joe Rogan reacted to the pressures that befell ABC from the Trump administration. B3.
First of all, I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. That's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
Now, if the problem is the companies, if they're being pressured by the government, so if that's real, and if people on the right are like, yeah, go get them, oh my God, you're crazy. You're crazy for supporting this because this will be used on you. You don't think that the fucking globalist lizard people who run the world are sitting here going, great, what do we got, 3 years? We'll wait this out. We'll wait this out. Yeah. Let them say the government should be involved in censoring people's speech. Yeah. Let them support that. Let these fucking dumbasses, because Jimmy Kimmel's a leftist, let these dumbasses think it's a good idea and we should celebrate.
So, Krystal, the reason I wanted to toss to that just now is I obviously completely agree that the government shouldn't be in a position at all to say what's in a comedian's monologue. That's obviously the way the FCC is set up. And Brendan Carr told me not too long ago that he thinks it's possible the entire law should just be changed. I think it's you know, I'm sympathetic to the argument that you just abolish the FCC, but that's a more radical proposal. What's interesting about what Rogan just said is I can hear my friends on the right in their head saying, yeah, okay, what is the FCC going to do? Cancel a conservative late night host? There's not a single conservative late night host. What are they going to do to the right that could possibly make these networks more biased in, or what are they going to do to the right given how these networks are already so biased against the left? And
they're coming for Sydney Sweeney, Emily.
They're coming for Sydney Sweeney. Obviously, I just have this gross. I feel gross anytime the government is threatening journalists and comedians. So I can't get on that bandwagon, though most of my friends on the right are on that bandwagon. They're like, well, okay, great. Yeah, what do you mean they're going to, we're not afraid of the FCC because all of these networks are already downplaying conservative voices. That's a taste of what people would say in response to Rogan there.
Well, the thing is, the FCC is not really the thing here because this is coming down from Trump himself, who threatened Kimmel after Colbert got fired, who I think we have Trump's Truth B6 we can put up on the screen where he's continuing to threaten Kimmel and say he should still be canceled. And so it's not like, it'd be one thing if this was some narrow FCC, we're going to apply the law differently, which of course they are, Brendan Carr is threatening that as well. But what you're talking about with the Trump administration is a whole of government weaponization. And, as you mentioned before, Nexstar and Sinclair, which also preempted Kimmel shows, they both are lobbying the government for different things. They both are lobbying to get their business needs met. And in Nexstar's case, this merger approved. Disney also has business before the government. So, from a dollars and cents perspective, I think the reason Jimmy Kimmel is back on air is because there was enough of a public and artist backlash that they decided that as a business decision, it was more risky to keep him off than to bring him back on come what may from the Trump administration. So, I don't think this was a principled decision. I don't think that, I don't think these capitalist organizations make principled decisions. They make decisions based on what they perceive, at least their bottom line to be. And there was enough of an outcry and enough people who canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions that they thought, we got a bit of a problem here. We better bring him back. To your point about, what could the liberals do to us if they got back in power? I think it is where I disagree with Rogan's point is I don't know if we're going to get any sort of Democrat who would be aggressive enough to do this sort of retaliation. I also don't think that the Supreme Court would go along with the same things from a Democratic president that they go along with from a Republican president.
I mean,
but
they
if you did
rejected
have
the
someone,
Murthy
what's
v.
that?
They rejected Murthy v. Missouri, which was the challenge on Biden era pressure on social media companies, and basically.
I'm speaking more broadly, though, first of all, that was a different situation because you didn't have such a direct and overt threat. It was implicit. But I'm speaking of, the shadow docket. Basically, the Trump administration this time around has gotten everything they want from this court. And I don't think that it's based on principle. I think it's based on, number one, they want to avoid a direct conflict with Trump, who has made it pretty plain that he's open to just ignoring Supreme Court decisions. They don't want to destroy the court. And number two, to a certain extent, they're just on board with the agenda. So I don't know that a Democratic president would likely weaponize the whole of federal government the way that Trump has been willing to. But yeah, I guess it's good for the right to be afraid that would be one of the things that would happen.
Well,
but if they did, listen, Fox News is the thing that exists. It is the largest cable news network. It is extraordinarily powerful in terms of its reach and its influence on the overall national conversation. They can really set the agenda in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of connectivity between Fox News and the rest of the conservative media apparatus. Since this isn't really about the FCC, because it's cable versus broadcast, of course, there's ways that, future Democratic administration could go after Fox News and try to make them pay for supporting a Republican agenda. I don't think that that's the direction that the country should go in. And the fact that Trump immediately just comes out and threatens Kimmel again is basically an admission that this was not about Disney making a business decision. This was them caving to the authoritarian demands of the Trump administration. And the only reason he's back is because of the level of pushback that they received.
Whereas I was also going to say the potential CBS Free Press merger, that's clearly a downstream consequence of the broader vibe shift narrative, where you have some of these. I was talking about this in the context of Kimmel last week. Is the market is catching up to Kimmel and Colbert to some extent. There are structural conversations to be had about people who are making shows that are getting just a fraction of the viewership they used to get with a lot of the same overhead. So Kimmel mentioned there are hundreds of people that work on these shows between him, Colbert. That's hundreds of jobs.
Crazy.
It's
yeah,
man, that's hundreds of jobs. That's a lot of money. And it's not quite trickling into social media in ways that are super profitable for these companies as linear television starts to decline. So in some sense, yes, the market is catching up with these guys in a business sense, but also in a content sense that what they're offering. These late night hosts are having Gavin Newsom and Adam Schiff on. It's this super niche content for as I always describe it, resistance wine moms, and there's not the same amount of money in that as there was, hate him or love him, Jay Leno in 1996. It's just totally different game. So in some sense, the market is catching up with them. And in some sense, these companies are starting to realize that they've maybe ignored a swath of the country and that they could make money off that swath of the country. And Krystal, if there is a CBS Free Press merger and you start to see some more right-leaning content at a place like CBS, then yeah, actually, there could be potential for a Dem who, we'll talk about this later in the show, to your point, if they have the sort of stones. But if a Dem wanted to mess with them, maybe that's coming for Sherry Redstone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. I'll believe it. I'll believe the Dem with the stones when I see it. As they have not emerged yet. But yeah, you have that. You have the Ellison family also potentially buying CNN and
right.
HBO and Comedy Central. You've got obviously TikTok coming under the, already has an IDF censor involved and is likely to be also, Ellison family plus Fox News. So you've got Twitter, obviously already owned by Elon Musk. So there's a lot of conservative media apparatus that is already out there and that is, that Trump is trying to consolidate right now as we speak. And so the goal, the overall plan is, okay, I'm going to consolidate ownership of as many media properties in my allies' hands, which is a large chunk. of the media space. And the fact that you've had so much consolidation in media makes this much easier for an authoritarian like Trump to be able to effectuate. So you've got a large chunk in the hands of his allies, effectively him. And then you have another chunk that you are using you're weaponizing the government to try to coerce and keep them in line. Now, Kimmel has been brought back, but a message has been sent. And we covered how last week The View, which was, set in the sights of Brendan Carr, called them out explicitly as the next target, how they were too cowardly to say anything about this in the first days after Kimmel was taken off the air. They did break their silence, I think, again, because the audience was like, what the hell is it? Like, how cowardly are you? Like, what, you're not going to say anything? Now they claimed, oh, we're waiting to see if Jimmy Kimmel was going to say anything. Bull. They were just afraid. And then when they saw the backlash, they realized they couldn't get away with not saying anything. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that many people, whether they realize it or not, journalists, comedians, podcasters, whoever, they will think about this episode when they're writing their monologues or crafting their commentary or riffing on cable news networks. They will think about what happened here. They will, again, could be without even realizing it, they'll trim their sails a little bit to not provoke the ire of Trump world and create a big problem for themselves and their employers, because no one should have any confidence that their employers are going to stand up for them in this fight with the Trump administration. They're not. Your best hope is, the grassroots backlash is kind of your best hope, but you have to be a Jimmy Kimmel level national figure, prominent national figure, to expect that is going to be there for you as well. So in any case, even with Kimmel, at least for now, back in the air, again, you still have this, this conflict between ABC and Disney, and now these affiliates, Nexstar and Sinclair. So it's not like the problem has completely gone away. But even with him back on the air, a message has been sent, and a chilling effect when you add this to the previous actions taken by the Trump administration as well.
Kimmel rounded out his response with a bit where Robert De Niro is the new FCC commissioner. And what's a couple of takeaways for that? I mean, first of all, you could have read Trump's Truth Social like in the voice of Roy Cohn and actually believed that Roy Cohn wrote it. That's what it sounded like. He says, last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative, a true bunch of losers. You could absolutely do that. And you'd be like, oh, yes, this is a mafia boss. But it's, of course, the president of the United States. And so on the one hand, they're also going to, Kimmel didn't really pull any punches. I don't think Kimmel or Colbert will really pull any punches as long as Colbert's on the air. I don't think Seth Meyers is going to pull any punches. And so if what they think about going forward is jokes that are based on false information that are going to needlessly inflame a big portion of the country, then I think that's a good thing. If it does end up censoring any just left of center criticism of Donald Trump, that's a bad thing. So it's just one of these, I don't know, it's one of these stories that is, I don't know about you, Krystal, it just, for me, it's so annoying. Again, we were talking about this with the UN, where it's like Trump has, as someone on the right, oh, sorry, I just touched my microphone, but as somebody on the right, Trump often will have this directionally correct approach to for example, the problems at the UN. And then he just talks like he's a mafia boss, like he's Robert De Niro in a mafia movie, or literally like he's Roy Cohn. And you're like, oh my gosh, do you have to do it this way? But he does.
I mean, I don't think there's anything directionally correct though about censoring comedians' monologue. And
about pushing back on what Kimmel said at about that potentially being a MAGA shooter after it was pretty obvious.
Take issue with it. I mean, I personally, I don't have a problem with what Kimmel said, because I think the point he was trying to make is they're doing everything to make it this had nothing to do with us, right? And that's true. Everybody was doing that. Ryan admitted it openly that he's hoping that it wasn't a left-wing shooter. Well, it turned out that, based on what we know, and Tyler, it seems like he was motivated by LGBTQ issues in particular, again, at least based on what we know at this point. But that wasn't even the major crux of the joke. The major crux of the joke was poking fun at Trump because he didn't give a shit that Charlie Kirk died, like that Charlie Kirk was murdered. He gets asked about it and he's like, oh yeah, I'm doing great. Take a look at my construction. Like that was actually like the real joke that was going on here. So personally, I would have loved to see Jimmy Kimmel more defiant versus emotional. And the reporting is that that was his original instinct in the face of the backlash. And that was part of what made ABC Disney feel like, okay, well, we have the president coming after us, we have the FCC commissioner coming after us, and Jimmy is unrepentant and not willing to go out here and grovel. So I guess we're gonna have to pull him off the air. So in any case, like, you know, Trump, he literally said that people should not be allowed to criticize him. Like that is his view. His genuine view is that the media should genuflect, that they should be just like his cabinet and constantly praise his greatness, and that anything outside of that should be basically illegal and barred and taken off the air. So, you know, while there are other areas where I agree with you, Trump will be like on tariffs, right? Trump will be directionally correct about or make some point about the way the previous system has failed and then come up with a scheme that makes everything way worse. On this one, I don't see that. There's nothing about this to me that is directionally correct whatsoever. And, you know, if Jimmy Kimmel sucks so bad and his ratings are so bad and it's so expensive and whatever, guess what? You don't have to do anything. Like that business decision is going to be made 100%. At some point. Yeah. Like I mean, you're right. These are dinosaur business models. There's no world in which 200 people working on a single show, which I think is the number that I heard for Jimmy Kimmel, is going to sustain long into the future. That's just not the world we live in now with totally fragmented media diets. Yeah. So, you know, if you hate Jimmy Kimmel, that problem was going to solve itself ultimately. The president of the United States did not need to weigh in.
It's the exact same thing with Colbert. And weighing in changes the news cycle in a way where it's like, you know, people are like, oh, Trump got Colbert canceled. It's like, actually, probably Colbert got Colbert canceled by making millions of dollars a year. But obviously now these companies can use their decisions as opportunities to like suck up to the administration and be like, hey, because Trump in his post, we'll move on after this, but in his post, he said that ABC told the White House. This is actually very interesting. He said ABC told the White House that Kimmel had been canceled. He says something
it says the White
happened.
House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. Now, that might be a lie. Trump does make shit up. So I don't know.
Or someone lied to him, someone misheard it on the phone call, and because it sounds like they told, quote, the White House, not him. So he then posted in the UK, taking this victory lap about the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel and the firing of Jimmy Kimmel, and that was never the case. It was always that it was an indefinite suspension after the news broke. But that's actually pretty interesting and does speak to how these companies are probably using their business decisions in conversations with the administration to say, hey, we're getting rid of Colbert. We're getting rid of Kimmel. Like we're doing the thing. So nothing to ignore on that front.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.